Thank you. And this is a critical question for me. To answer the question directly, I think that any discussion primarily about diverting student fee review board funds to research, while great in concept, also has to be levied and weighed against the other critical areas of student and academic life that these funds support in the status quo. I think that also engaging in this discussion, going back to the earlier part of our discussion, is going to require us to take a stand and ask that all of that money be put on the table. You know, we want to make sure that that money is available for discussion. That way when ideas like this come up, we're not placed in the false position of having to make a difficult choice between cutting funding for Centro de la Raza or diverting the money to research because we cannot touch certain areas of the Student Fee Review Board budget. So I think that's integral. And I agree wholeheartedly with Patricia. This proposal is one that I'm intrigued by and hearing it in this debate, and I think that one should be on the table as part of, as Patricia said, an attempt to bring all the resources of this university together in a coordinated way to adequately leverage and build the largest pot of money that we possibly can as an institution. Now, I think that what I'm trying to bring to this debate when it comes to this issue is that this problem, and it is a problem, is not going to be solved by this university alone. New Mexico uses what's called an RPSP, Research and Public Service Program process, to fund special projects and research at all universities, 2- and 4-year across the state of New Mexico. And this is a broken system, and it's a pork barrel system, and it's a political system. And it's used by certain legislators to direct money to pet projects. But it does not articulate or provide a comprehensive vision for what research should look like in New Mexico. So as precedent, I think picking up on a discussion that Patricia brought for us is we need to engage people in reforming how this state looks at its 4-year research institutions and goes about supporting them. Because if we don't, we are leaving $100 million a year on the table that we could be using better and smarter. I think that an integral part of this discussion is also engaging state actors in reforming the state's higher education funding formula. The state funds CNM exactly the same way that it funds the University of New Mexico. It gives a certain dollar amount for a student credit hour that varies on the level of instruction. So a graduate student will receive more money. But for a university like UNM, from that pot of money, not only are they expected to do the teaching and student services functions that 2-year universities are expected to do, but they're also expected to use that money to support their research mission. So you see that from a structural perspective, this problem implicates the very way our state funds and prioritizes higher education in New Mexico. And I think that what I bring to the table is not only the ability to lead the discussion here at home, but to engage people in the Legislative Education Study Committee that should put questions like this on their interim work plan, to bring legislators from across the state and graduate students from across the state to the table to finally talk about this question. And I think that that's something I would definitely try to pursue within the first few months, is bring this to the table to the proper areas of state government, because if we don't act there, we're never going to solve the problem.
Thanks very much. So Joseph, you have about 4 minutes for your rebuttal.
I think it's important when we talk about reallocating funds to the Student Fee Review Board to think about the process of the Student Fee Review Board. And first off, I think that GPSA would face a significant hurdle with allocating $100,000 or $120,000 into specifically graduate research, just because, especially if the new policy for the Student Fee Review Board is implemented, it would be a 7-to-2 split between undergraduates and graduate students. Either a lot of persuasion would be needed or another alternative. And when looking at that, it's important to consider also something that probably extremely few graduates know, that the SFRB process actually has a side process. Each graduate student pays an extra $22 more than undergraduates. and they allocate the funding to the same organizations that the SFRB process went through. So if you had to be creative, this amount of money is well over $100,000 and could be used to supplement graduate-only programs like graduate research that is executed through the executive branch of GPSA. So, I mean, I think that these are bigger pictures. I mean, I think that realistically it wouldn't be possible to allocate it through the SFRB process. But I don't think, like I said, I think you need to look at every option.